They said they loved them. They promised forever. But behind every sweet message lurked a thief. A thief who didn't just steal hearts, but more than $100 million from innocent Americans. This is the true story of how a network of online scammers built fake romances, hijacked company emails, and left victims across the United States broken, bankrupt, and heart-shattered. And the moment you think you know how it ends, a twist will prove that love can be the deadliest lie of all. Before we dive in, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe to Bite Crimes. Your support helps us keep bringing chilling, educational true crime stories that expose the dark side of the digital world. Now, sit back, take a breath. Let's begin. It started like so many modern love stories. A lonely evening, a notification sound, and a message that simply said, "Hi, how was your day?" Across America, people who just wanted connection found themselves chatting with charming strangers. They laughed, they confided, they dreamed together. Weeks passed, feelings grew, but behind the romantic words was a team, not a person. Investigators would later discover that many of these soulmates were part of a coordinated criminal network operating thousands of miles away in Ghana, West Africa. They weren't looking for love. They were looking for victims. According to U.S. authorities, this operation wasn't a few hackers in a basement. It was a structured organization with recruiters, managers, and money movers. Some members specialized in creating fake dating profiles using stolen photos. Others controlled bank accounts and shell companies inside the United States. And a third group focused on something even more sinister, writing love scripts, pre-planned messages designed to emotionally hook their targets. They had rehearsed every line. They knew exactly how to sound caring, patient, and believable. But romance wasn't their only weapon. Parallel to the love scams ran an even larger fraud, known as business email compromise, or BEC. A method so profitable, the FBI calls it one of the costliest cybercrimes in history. Here's how it worked. Criminals hacked or mimicked legitimate company email accounts. Then, posing as CEOs or trusted suppliers, they sent urgent payment requests to employees, realistic invoices, familiar language, identical signatures. The instructions always sounded routine. Wire $85,000 to our new vendor account today. By the time the real company discovered the deception, the money had already traveled through layers of fake accounts and out of reach. That was the beauty and the horror of the scheme. It blended emotional manipulation with corporate precision. A global operation running two scams under one roof. Let's put faces and hearts to the numbers. There was Sarah, a retired nurse in Florida. She thought she'd met an engineer stationed overseas. He sent her poems. He called her My Forever Girl. And when he told her his equipment had broken down and he needed help, she wired him $200,000, her entire life savings. When agents later showed her the truth, she whispered, "He sounded so real." Then there was Tom, a small business owner in Texas. One morning, he received what looked like an email from his longtime supplier. It asked him to update the company's payment information. Tom followed the instructions and sent $85,000. It was gone within hours. Different stories, same tragedy. Have you or someone you know ever experienced a scam online? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might save someone else from heartbreak. By 2022, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, better known as IC3, was drowning in reports. Patterns began to emerge. Email domains traced back to Ghana, victims across 30 states, losses climbing past $100 million. Investigators realized they were dealing with something massive, a hybrid fraud network combining emotional and corporate exploitation. Special agents from the FBI's Cyber Division joined forces with Ghana's Economic and Organized Crime Office and Interpol. Tracking the money was a nightmare. Fake names, layered accounts, cryptocurrency, offshore transfers. But every wire leaves a trace, and they follow it, one painful breadcrumb at a time. Bit by bit, the web began to unravel. The first big break came from a suspicious bank report. A single account had received transfers from victims in multiple states, each story different, each heartbreak identical. Tracing that account led to a supposed luxury car business in Accra, Ghana. Investigators discovered the business was nothing more than a front used to wash stolen funds. Inside seized laptops, they found something even more chilling: files labeled hearts and accounts. Each row represented a person, each note a manipulation. From those files, the FBI identified key coordinators known by aliases: Kofi Boat, Van, and Pascal. They allegedly ran the network's romance and BEC operations. Months of surveillance and coordination followed, and then the arrests began. In 2023, working with Ghanaian authorities, U.S. agents executed multiple raids in Accra. 4 men were taken into custody. 3 would later be extradited to New York to face charges in the Southern District of New York. The accusations: wire fraud conspiracy, money laundering conspiracy, and receipt of stolen property. If convicted, each could face decades behind bars. It marked one of the largest international fraud crackdowns in years, proof that digital crimes can cross oceans, but so can justice. But even with arrests made, one question haunted investigators and victims alike: how could something like this go on for nearly 7 years without anyone noticing? The answer lies in the psychology of deception. These scammers didn't just steal money, they rewired human trust. They learned that loneliness is a universal vulnerability. They studied their victims carefully, using affection as a weapon. They built emotional dependency one message at a time, until their targets would do anything to keep the connection alive. That's the darkest part of romance scams. They don't break in. They get invited in. Each message was calculated to create attachment. They mirrored their victims' hobbies, interests, even writing style. They said the right words at the right time, making people believe they had finally found someone who truly understood them. Experts call it social engineering, but I call it emotional engineering, a step-by-step process that turns love into leverage. For the scammers, it was never personal. It was business. They used shared databases of stolen photos, pre-written scripts, and lists of targets ranked by how emotionally invested they seemed. It's chilling to think that while one person was sending a heartfelt good morning text, another was updating a spreadsheet on how much that relationship had earned so far. And yet, for victims like Sarah and Tom, it wasn't about money, it was about betrayal. They had trusted someone who looked into their lives and said, "You're safe with me," and then took everything. But the ripple effects didn't stop there. Communities began to feel the sting too. Local police departments started getting calls from victims who had lost thousands, even hundreds of thousands. Church groups began holding awareness meetings. Banks introduced stricter fraud detection for older clients, and dating apps started verifying identities more aggressively. Still, for every group taken down, another one seemed to rise. It's the unfortunate reality of digital crime. The internet doesn't sleep, and neither do scammers. As the FBI continued tracing transactions, they realized the scale of this network stretched far beyond romance scams. There were side operations, phishing, credit card theft, cryptocurrency laundering, all tied back to the same core players. Each time money moved, a small percentage was skimmed off the top and funneled into new accounts, making recovery nearly impossible. When agents examined the seized communication logs, they found messages that revealed how coldly the criminals viewed their victims. Phrases like, "This one is ready," and "She will pay again if you promise to visit." To them, it wasn't love. It was a strategy. But the investigation also revealed something unexpected. Some of the people helping to move the money had been victims themselves. They believed they were assisting a lover or business partner, not realizing they were laundering stolen funds. By the time they understood the truth, it was too late. Their own bank accounts had been flagged, their reputations destroyed. That's how deep this manipulation ran. It didn't just exploit emotions, it weaponized them. After months of legal proceedings, 3 of the extradited suspects appeared in a New York courtroom. Each faced multiple counts of wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. The U.S. Attorney's Office estimated more than $100 million in losses connected to their crimes. But investigators believe the true number is even higher. The courtroom was filled with silence as victims listened to the charges being read. Some had flown from across the country just to see the faces behind their heartbreak. One woman told reporters afterward, "I wanted to see if they looked sorry." She paused, then added quietly, "They didn't." For the agents who spent years chasing this case, the arrests were a victory, but a bittersweet one, because no amount of sentencing could restore the trust that had been lost. No amount of justice could fully heal the hearts that had been broken, but it did send a powerful message. Love might blind you, but the law never sleeps. The broader impact of this case reached far beyond the courtroom. It inspired new cybersecurity training for businesses, stricter online verification laws, and international collaboration between law enforcement agencies. For the first time, major tech platforms began working directly with investigators to detect and remove fraudulent accounts faster. And yet, even with those changes, romance scams continue to evolve. Artificial intelligence has made fake profiles more convincing, voice cloning has made calls more believable, and deepfake videos now make lies look real. The tools of deception are becoming smarter, but so are we. That's why awareness is everything. It starts with stories like this, real, documented, painful stories that remind us how easily love can be manipulated in the digital age. If you ever meet someone online who refuses to video chat, who asks for money, or who constantly finds excuses not to meet, stop and verify. If a company you work for suddenly changes payment details by email, double-check through an official phone number. And if you've already fallen victim, report it. You might help save someone else. The FBI always says the same thing. Early reporting is key. Every hour counts when money is transferred internationally, and every voice counts when we talk openly about these crimes. When I first read about this case, I couldn't stop thinking about how fragile trust has become online. We share so much of ourselves, our photos, our words, our emotions, without realizing that sometimes we're handing them straight to a predator wearing a smile. But knowledge is protection. That's why stories like this matter, because behind every statistic is a real person, someone who just wanted love and instead found deception. So if you're listening to this right now, and you've ever felt embarrassed or ashamed for believing someone who wasn't real, hear this. You are not foolish. You are human. You cared. And they exploited that. But now you know how to fight back. Today the accused await trial in the United States. Justice moves slowly, but it moves. And for the first time in years, victims can breathe knowing that those who stole their trust are finally facing consequences. This story is a reminder that in the digital world, love and lies often share the same screen. But the more we talk about it, the harder it becomes for scammers to hide. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. If it opened your eyes or touched your heart, take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Bite Crimes. Your support helps us keep telling the stories that matter, stories that educate, empower, and protect. And remember, sometimes the most dangerous words on the internet are the ones that begin with, "I love you."